engaging celebrity interviews, exciting updates from Christian filmmakers, movie reviews so you can choose your movies wisely, and so much more here on Faith on Film with Isaac Hernandez and Holly McClure.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Faith on Film. I'm Isaac Hernandez, and I'm here with Holly McClure, who, by the way, Holly, I believe you have a great interview for us today.
I do. I got a chance to interview Camey Joy. She's written a book called Beautifully Scarred, and kind of a different thing. We do movies, we do television shows, we do entertainment, but this is someone who has a story that probably will be made into a movie because, quite frankly, it is an amazing story that she told about what she went through from birth, literally scarred from birth, but how it's transitioned her through life. And she is a Christian with an amazing message. And I'm excited for you to hear this interview. It's a perfect message for this time of year, for any time, giving us hope and inspiration. Camey Joy with Beautifully Scarred.
So delighted to have you with me today, Camey. And this is a very interesting story, and I love seeing your beautiful face. Welcome to the Faith on Film.
Thank you, Holly, for having me. So nice to meet you.
Well, the book, nice to meet you too. And the book is, rich. I looked at the different chapters that were developed. It's your story, although starting out tragically, ending up beautifully and so positive. Why is this a relative story for people to read today? Why will it encourage people? And give us a little background about what happened to you to bring this story about.
So, Holly, I wrote this book because I was born with a bilateral cleft lip and cleft palate. That's where you're born without a lip, and in the roof of your mouth, you have a hole. And my book is about a journey. It takes a reader from born in the mountains of Guatemala. I should have died, but my story did not end there. My story continued through survival, through overcoming, through adoption, and ultimately through redemption. And the reason why I wrote this book is because I wanted people to know that we all have scars. We've been wounded, whether that be physical or emotional or even spiritually. But how beautiful our scars can be whenever we allow Jesus to come in and heal those wounds. They become scars that will eventually lead to become our testimony.
And your journey was not only just the what happened to you when you were born and having to deal with that, but you were adopted. There were several things that you went through. You were I guess your adoptive parents hadn't seen you, correct? They just adopted unseen and got you. Tell about that, because your earliest memories were with them, right?
That's correct. So I was at an orphanage for 2 months in Guatemala where they were able to keep me alive. And then I had this really neat opportunity with, it's called Healing the Children, where you go to a family in the United States, you live, you have your surgeries, and then once they're complete, you go back to where you originally came from. But for me, for my story, because having a cleft lip and a cleft palate, it's not just a one and done surgery. It goes in layers. And because of this, thankfully, my parents fell in love with me, and they were the only parents that I knew since I came at the age of 2 months.
Wow. Before we go on with the story, why are there so many children born with cleft palates in this type of situation in South America and other? I don't hear about it much in the United States. I really don't. But it seems like we are hearing about it in other countries, in Asiatic countries. I know that there's a boat that travels around with doctors that repair this. So it's widely. What is it? Why is it that affects these different cultures?
Holly, that is such a great question, because I have had asked the same thing. And to be honest and truthful with you, no one really, really knows. There's different varying questions, but I think part of it is when people are in a third world country, they don't have the access to vitamins that we have. And so a cleft lip and a cleft palate is part of the neural tube defect. So sometimes spina bifida, it's that whole canal. And a lot of times it's a lack of folic acid, or so whether that be that a mother doesn't have the proper nutrients, or their body is not able to process the folic acid properly, or stress. Stress can be another trigger as well.
Did you ever find out who your birth mother was?
Yes, I did. I had such a neat experience. So my parents, Ray and Judy Thompson, who took me in and adopted me eventually, they had always told me that I was adopted. They always told me I had another family in Guatemala who loved me, who fought for me to save my life. And for a long time with identity issues, I didn't want to know anything about my birth family. I wanted to be identified as with my foster family, with my adopted family. But I had the opportunity to go back when I was 14 and meet my biological parents with my dad. And it was such an amazing experience. I was very overwhelmed, but in a good way. I mean, trying to process it all, but I wanted to make sure that I honored them for their sacrifice and the love that they had given to me.
Wow. So again, another situation of being adopted and then getting to meet the birth parent, or parents. I mean, you had a lot stacked on you. How many operations did you have or have you gone through?
Oh, I have had about 23 surgeries. Some of them have been major surgeries and some of them have been minor. I had at the age of 14 what I call my extreme makeover. They redid my nose, they put coral reef in my cheeks and rotated my jaws. And basically the doctors were trying to make me look like what I should have looked like without having the cleft. And a lot of surgeries, a lot of trauma going through the surgeries. But now I can look back and I'm like, God, thank you that I had amazing doctors. And I'm so grateful that I went through it, because through that pain, I got to come out of it, just thankful.
Well, yes. And it sounds like your adoptive parents raised you in a Christian home.
My dad, his name is, it's Ray and Judy Thompson. And my dad was a Methodist pastor, so I grew up in the church. I always knew the Lord ever since growing up. Always sang in the church choir on the worship team. And I knew nothing other than the Lord's grace and goodness over my life.
Because really your life is a miracle. I mean, what happened to you, the situation being born and then taken in, and that they could keep you for all this. I mean, that is a miracle from the beginning of your life. So I know you value that. And a lot of people don't recognize those things as miracles, but it is, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, my memoir is just full of story after miracle after miracle. One particular miracle is that as a little girl, the doctors told my parents, she is not going to be able to speak and she'll have to have tubes in her ears. But yet at the age of 5, God spoke to my heart and told me, hey, Camey, one day you're going to travel around the world, and not only are you going to speak, but you are going to sing, because I want for you to tell other people that Jesus is real and that he still is doing miracles today.
Wow. So you sing too?
I do. I'm a worshiper. I love to sing. And, the cool thing about that story is that, I wasn't able to speak very well. And so it took a lot of faith for my mom to say, yes, Camey, I do believe that you will sing. And it was from that moment that I spoke one way, but whenever I sang, it really, truly is a gift and a miracle from the Lord.
So let's talk about getting it. I mean, you went through a lot of surgeries and the plastic surgery and everything. You said kind of the transfer makeover, but was it hard as you got into being an older teenager to deal with this? Did life level out kind of to be normal, or was it still a struggle for you, even in your high school and college years?
So yes, there were moments where I had to definitely work through the scars, through being different, through looking different. There was also moments that I had to dig deep into the wounds of rejection, you know, maybe perhaps feeling abandoned at times. And but I am so thankful that, you know, my healing to people looks different. You know, sometimes it's a one and done, boom, you're healed. And for others, and especially in my case, it was a journey. It truly was a process. And, you know, there were people that didn't like my skin color because I was a brown girl in a white family. You know, there were people that didn't like the way that I spoke. So it was definitely a journey.
Wow. I didn't even think about that. I mean, any kind of racist tendencies or having to deal with that. It never occurred to me. Wow. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Roanoke, Texas, and it was a small town, lots of country people, but sweet, sweet people. But in my town of Roanoke in the early 80s, there wasn't other people that had my skin color. You know, I stood out. And at the time, I didn't like sticking out. You know, I wanted to blend. But I think God has a sense of humor sometimes, and He'll just highlight people because He wants to use you, to use your story to really bring people in to Jesus.
So did you go to college? And what and then get married? I mean, talk about then that transition out of teen into adulthood.
Yes. So my parents, I was raised in Roanoke, Texas. My parents, Ray and Judy Thompson, we moved to South Texas, like on the border of Mexico, and they had a medical missions clinic where they would do dental, eye surgery, all the things in Mexico for free. And it was there that I met the love of my life, my husband. He and his family moved in 97 to South Texas, and we did too. And he's from Arkansas, and we were high school sweethearts. After high school, we ended up going our separate ways. He went to Dallas Baptist, and I went to Baylor University, where I became a nurse. And my heart was that I wanted to give back to others what I had so lovingly received from the doctors and nurses. And it's been beautiful. It's been really neat to just give back.
And honestly, you know, to give back, have you been involved with helping other children with cleft palates and that ministry? Have you been involved with that, since clearly you know what it was like to go through it?
Yes. So I have had so many, so in the Valley, whenever I lived in South Texas, we moved, my husband and I moved back down there for a season, and I was able to work with the hospital there and get a child who had a cleft lip and bring him to America to have a surgery. And then he was able to go back home, but it was one of those full circle moments. But also my doctor, Dr. Craig Hobar, he started an organization called LEAP. And this was located in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They provide cranial facial surgeries to children around the world for free. And I've been honored to be able to speak at some of his galas and just to share, because it's so hard for parents to see their children with this deformity. And sometimes it's easy to lose hope, you know, but to be able to see, hey, there is hope. It's a process, it's a journey, but there's hope. And so that's my encouragement to other families who are going through this, that it's hard, it's not always easy, but you can come out on the other side really knowing that there's hope.
So do you have children yourself? And if you do, were you concerned you might have a child that had the same deformity you had?
Holly, I'm so glad you're asking this, because I know people want to ask me this question and they're afraid. But, you know, I really
I would be, if was pregnant and had that, that's the first thing on my mind is that going to happen to my children? And do you want to put them through what you went through? I mean, those are hard questions, you know?
Yes, exactly. And I did, I kind of thought to myself, like, Lord, like, I do not want to have a child that is born with what I had to go through. And it's not just because of the physical appearance, but all the things that come with it, the rejection, the prejudice, all the surgeries. And I have 3 boys, and none of them were born with any deformity. But, the Lord, he hadn't worked in my heart because I didn't want to have a child born with this. But yet at the same time, I finally reached a point that I was like, God, even if they are, Lord, you are still good and you are still in control and you will use this for your glory. But I definitely had to wrestle with that question for sure.
And as I would too. Is it something that's hereditary? Do they have to be concerned about it being passed down when they get married, or is it not? Do you know?
As a nurse myself, and again, going back to that question earlier, I have seen it where you'll see a mother that is born with this deformity and then they have a child and they have a child. And so I kind of question, and the medical professionals would say, no, it's not. But I think that it boils down to making sure that your body has all the essentials, the essential nutrients and vitamins, but especially that folic acid in the early stage of development, and especially that there's no like stress or anything like that.
Well, today now, how old are your boys now?
They are 16, 14, and 13, and they are the love of my life. They are, they're sweet, kind, loving, and they honor me through all that I have been through. And it's so neat to watch their individual personalities come out.
Well, that's what I wanted to know. What do they think of their mom, who I'm sure they've seen pictures and you went through all your journey. And of course they met the grandparents. And I mean, what do they think of her now with your book out? And I bet they must be very proud of you.
They really are. My oldest son, he's into music. He loves to worship. And the other day, his name is Ethan, and he said, Mom, I'm just so proud of you. What you've been through, that you're not afraid to share your story and your scars. And, it just melted my heart, that, I'm sure that there may be times when, as anybody with their mom, it's like, oh, Mom, you don't have to show them this. But knowing that they're proud and they want for me to show all of it, all the stories, all the pictures, because they know where we are today.
Well, what do you have to say to our audience watching right now? Because there's several things that you've talked about that I think people will resonate with. Rejection, adoption, having a deformity or physical hindrance and having to overcome that, going through life. I mean, I didn't even think about the fact of racism or, looking different than your family and having to go through that too. I mean, Camey, you've gone through a lot in your life. Is Joy your real name? You've got such a great name, Joy. Is that like a middle name or is it a last name?
It is. Joy is my middle name.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think that that the Lord has gifted me with the oil of joy, because I typically always have a smile on my face and joy in my heart. And it comes from a place of genuine, like I am genuinely happy to be alive. I am happy to share my story, that I am here, that I can speak, that I'm not living in a third world country hidden because of what my physical appearance looks like. And I would love for the readers and for people listening today to know that, no story is too far gone, that everybody has a story, everybody has scars, and my prayer is that our scars will become a testimony, that we can tell people that, hey, yes, I've gone through this, but I have overcome. And then you can lead other people through that same journey and just create like a line of healing, that you're healed, and then you bring other people with you through that healing process.
And what would you say is the miracle? Like, if you could define that for people to say, yes, there were great doctors, there was great everything that helped be the point, but there was a miracle in your story. And for people to want to believe in the miracle, especially this time of year, especially with what everyone's going through in the world right now, it's important for us to believe that God is still a God of miracles, isn't he?
He is. And, I think, I don't want to be repetitive, but the miracle is that sometimes it's not just one and done, like you're instantly healed. Sometimes that happens. But sometimes the miracle is in those small steps, and seeing that that God's hand was actually in it from the very beginning, and that God never heals the same way twice. Like, he always will meet you, the individual, where you're at. And I just love how you are uniquely created, and God's going to come into your uniqueness, and he's going to heal, and he is going to touch you in a unique and special way.
Oh, what a great message. Camey Joy, Beautifully Scarred. Where can people find the book or the audio or contact you?
I would absolutely love to hear from people and hear their stories. And you can find me at CameyJoy.com. That's CameyJoy.com. There you can buy the book through my website. And also, I have a YouVersion 5-day devotional.
Ooh, I love that. All right, so they can get a devotional as well. Thank you so much for being with us. This is a great story to tell. I love hearing overcoming. You're an overcomer, Camey. You really are. And you've overcome beautiful. I mean, listen, just no matter how you look, you're beautiful inside. But I love that God just gave you the beauty outside too.
Well, thank you, Holly. It is such an honor to be with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless.
You too.
When the Jesus movement swept across the world 50 years ago, churches were divided against themselves. Based on a true story, Jesus Freaks is both a new book and a motion picture by writer and director Nina May. It's the story of two college kids who discover love, faith, and the power of the Holy Spirit changing lives around them. Follow their lifelong journey through spiritual awareness and supernatural encounters while embracing the power of the Holy Spirit in their lives.
What makes Capernaum Studios different from other movie studios? We believe in empowering filmmakers to make stories that matter, inspire, uplift, and transform lives. From historically authentic sets to state-of-the-art, fully equipped sound stages, we offer immersive LED and green screen stages, ICVFX virtual production, period to modern sets, a first-century village featured in The Chosen, and much more. We provide everything filmmakers need to focus on what matters in making their vision a reality, producing meaningful content affordably without compromising creativity. Discovering what's possible when creativity meets purpose. Capernaum Studios, empowering filmmakers to make dreams a reality.
Welcome back, everybody. Holly, that was a great interview. What do you feel you got out of this?
Oh, so much. So, Kimmy's such a beautiful woman. It radiates with this love of God and this joy. And to me, it was impressive of all the things she's been through. A cleft palate, a deformity, and like I said in the interview, racism. I didn't even think about that. She grew up in a mostly white town in Texas, and there was a lot of prejudice being in a white family. Think of the children that are mixed marriages, that they see the white mother with a mixed child or a black child, and the things that they have to go through, or the reverse. I mean, the father. So I'm just pointing out that there's a lot of topics that she touched on, and adoption. that meant something to her to be able to meet the birth mother. That meant something to her, the family that took her in unseen and raised this child that they had deals with. There's a lot of topics in her book and a lot of subjects that she touched on. And I really feel like this is something that in our audience, if there's someone out there that says, I was adopted, or I felt racism, or I felt, separated from didn't know my birth mother or my family and taken in by someone else, all the hardships that people go through, I think her ultimate testimony of what God restores, redeems, and gives back and brings joy. And I love that her last name, Joy, Camey Joy. I love that. And brings joy in her life, because she can be depressed and all her life have that chip on her shoulder. Look what happened to me. Look what happened to me. But she's not. And her story is of overcoming. And I think that's such a message for our audience, no matter who you are or where you're at, no matter what you're going through, God loves you. And you can overcome anything you're going through. You can overcome it because God loves you. He'll redeem what the cankerworm has eaten. He'll redeem what's been taken from you. And all of us in life, who has not gone through stuff, Isaac? Who has not gone through things in your life? And you think, will I ever get through this? But with God, you do. With God, you do.
I just went through something like that recently with my daughter who, they diagnosed with cancer of the tongue. They were going to cut her whole tongue off. And as we read up on some of that, we read when you don't have a tongue, when they cut your tongue off, you have about a life expectancy of about 2 years. And we had to deal with that. But the good thing is that my daughter developed, I don't know where it came from, I guess, but developed an unbelievable strength of faith. I mean, her comment about the tongue thing especially was, when the doctor told her that, she said, that's okay. If you take my tongue away, God's just going to give me a new one. That was, I think that was where we also then grew in our faith. We're like, if she has this kind of faith, then we have to have this kind of faith. So very interesting. And then you mentioned mixed marriage. She actually is part of a mixed marriage. She married an African-American. So we have grandkids that are mixed. And I don't know if they've experienced racism or not, but I imagine they have. I have. As a Mexican, I have. We all have. And it's not just white racism against Hispanics, by the way, and I don't know why I'm getting on this subject, but there's a lot of Hispanics or blacks that have racism against whites. So it's just encompassing the whole. We just tend to think our own race is the best race of all, right?
Well, I don't know if I think of mine as the best race of all, but okay, you're racist. You're racist because you think that.
See what I mean? We're all, in a way, sometimes a little bit racist. But anyway,
no, but
there's nothing to do with film.
I understand, though, that. And I understand what you're saying, and your grandchildren and children. And I, too, my sister was married to a Mexican, and so my nephew, Jaron Tafoya, you know what I mean? I mean, and he had experienced some things. So, yes, you're right. And we live in a faulted world. We live in a world where there's evil, and we live in that world. But the wonderful thing is the restoration and joy, and that God redeems all this, and He's with us. And that is, I love that message. I love that message that she
whatever sides we wear here is what our race is. When we get to heaven, it's going to fall off. So it's either going to fall off or burn off. I'd rather.
Yeah, no one's going to have a color in heaven. No one's going to care.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Thank you for joining us. Remember to check out our website, faithonfilmtv.com. That's faithonfilmtv.com. Until next week, take care now.
Blessings to everyone.
Write to us at faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. That's faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Faith on Film TV. Also, go to our YouTube channel, Faith on Film TV, and hit the subscribe button and the bell for notifications on our latest Faith on Film shows.